I'm in bed, so tired. After midnight, and I fall asleep, but then when I wake up and I'm not in my bed, it's a giant room and the walls are wet. I'm not alone. I'm scared. There's creatures staring at me. It's like a bug, a walking stick with a huge head, the eyes. Listen. It comes closer. It touches me.
Was Kim abducted by mantis aliens?
Nothing's hidden from the mantis.
Kim continues to recount the horror of what she went through.
It puts tubes in me, probing, and then they flay me like a lab rat. It opens me, my skull, my chest, prods my organs.
Based on Kim's horrific description, is it possible she was abducted by an alien species known as the mantis?
This one is a praying mantis type being, approximately 7 foot tall, extremely smart, articulate, very manipulative. It's described as horrible, evil.
The most curious of extraterrestrial races are mantis beings. They have been seen in many abduction scenarios. The mantis beings are bipedal. They stand upright. They have 3-pronged fingers and feet. And their language pretty much is a series of clicks, but they are also telepathic. They primarily come from Andromeda, Orion, and the Sombrero Galaxy. But they actually far reach out into the universe to places that we don't even know exist.
Wow, okay. And were you dressed the same way you went to sleep, everything?
I was. The time frame here is 3:33 in the morning to 6:15 a.m.
Finally, Geraldine was piecing together what had been happening to her. She was the victim of experiments in which her human fetuses were being harvested by alien abductors and altered into hybrid life forms. And this had been happening to her for years.
Feels like I got hit by a truck. My entire body is sore, and it's like so hard to move around, and I'm barely sitting up.
Again, Geraldine visited her doctor, who could offer no answers. Finally, she decided to take matters into her own hands.
And so in 2016, I decided to part ways with my partner, and I decided it was time for me to be public about this.
Geraldine began a website looking for other women who had had the same experience. Hundreds of women emailed her saying the same thing had happened to them. The website serves as a support group where women from all around the world share similar horrifying stories of having their fetuses stolen by a hybridization program.
No, I have mothers that are writing to me, telling me that their children are being taken. I mean, women are experiencing PTSD as a result of some of these experiences. Real trauma.
Wow, wow.
Yeah.
So the times that you've been to the doctor, do you have any medical records that you could share with me?
I do have these ultrasounds, so you can take a look at that and see.
Geraldine was concerned with what had been happening to her, so she visited a doctor for an ultrasound. Together, they discovered physical evidence that strongly suggested her story was true.
I developed a cyst. The doctor said that the size of the cyst and the way that it developed was like somebody that had children already.
Really?
You know, we didn't understand what to compare it to until I had the abduction. So I went back and I looked this up and I was like, oh my God, this is exactly what had happened to me.
Wow, and so they never found any explanation?
No.
Wow. I really like the focus you're placing on the medical. We can document what's going on medically so that, you know, the medical community says, we don't have an explanation, so let's start looking at the alternatives and let's start taking it seriously, because if people truly are being impregnated when there's no possible way that that could happen in an explanation. The medical field needs to know this. We need to know this.
Exactly, and there has to be support because there's something along with that. It's a psychological side effect.
Ben Hansen is investigating reports of a hidden human alien research laboratory conducting genetic research near Dulce, New Mexico. In 1980, a woman named Myrna Hansen claimed she and her son were abducted by Greys and taken to the base.
Her and her 6-year-old son were driving home, and they observed some flying saucers in the sky. The next thing she remembers after that was her and her son were in their car. And it had no gas. It wasn't running.
On May 5th, 1980, sitting just outside the town of Dulce, she realized she'd lost a full 6 hours.
Does she recall anything of what happened in the missing time?
At the time, she didn't, but she had gone back to do some regression hypnotism. During the time that she did that, she found out what had happened. They were taken to an underground base.
Really?
Yes.
Myrna saw what appeared to be a complex lab. She was subjected to painful experiments and feared she wouldn't leave alive.
Apparently, after they were through with the examinations and procedures, they took Myrna and her son into another room. She described seeing big vats of liquid with body parts in it, and she was not sure if they were human or animal.
Myrna Hansen also claimed she saw the aliens conduct bizarre and painful experiments on cattle. And then she and her son's memories were erased.
They were subject to flashes of bright lights. Apparently, the bright lights wiped their memory of the abduction.
Wow.
To this day, the man known as Paul lives in near constant dread of another abduction. But when he was a child in the late 1980s, he had an episode of missing time. One evening in 1987, Paul and his best friend snuck onto his parents' yacht, which was docked on Catalina.
They had just bought some comic books and were super excited to look through them.
The boys were just hoping for a little unsupervised fun. Instead, they got the shock of their lives.
They had just gotten on the boat and boom. They were knocked unconscious.
They're all alone. There's no parents or anything.
Right.
And then all of a sudden,
Next thing they know, it's morning.
so missing time. We're in a missing time situation.
Years later, as an adult, he actually went under hypnosis. And under hypnosis, he was taken back to this incident on Catalina Island. Paul described being taken to what appears to be an underground area. So it had rock walls.
Like an undersea UFO base.
Yes, it was quite large. He saw what he described as praying mantis type beings. Large, huge, bulbous eyes, triangular shaped head, the claw-like hands.
These are deathly scary.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In 2021, A previous investigation led Ben to an abductee who also suffered at the hands of the mantis. Rob Fullington.
Is there anybody there with you?
Yeah. I got a mantis.
Calvin, I know that you didn't want to talk about this for decades. It's probably still hard for you, but can you take me back to that night and just kind of walk me through step by step what happened?
Absolutely. We got off around 5 o'clock that evening. We parked and walked down to the pier. And that's when I noticed, coming from behind me, there was some hazy blue lights, like the patrol cars use. And I was thinking, oh boy, we fixing to go to jail. And we turned around about the same time and looked. There was 3 bulky-looking creatures coming toward us. They was gray in color. They had skin that kind of looked like an elephant. So one grabbed me by the left arm, and I automatically felt an injection. It paralyzed me. I could roll my eyes, but that's all I could move. And this thing took us toward this craft, and this big, ugly creature take me toward this table and laid me at a 45-degree angle. And then I felt this presence coming in. And it's what I call a female. Her 2 middle fingers was a little bit longer on each hand. Then she grabbed my chin and she took her 2 middle fingers from this other hand. She ran them down my throat. And I started choking and bleeding. And that's when I noticed how they looked. It wasn't nothing like I've never seen in this world. This other thing come alive like a jack in the box, and he got me by the left arm, and I felt this injection again. He carried me out to the riverbank, and this is when I remember hearing Charlie say, son, you okay? Sometimes I feel like I've had people tell me that they was angels that was cast out of heaven, and I don't believe that. If I was gonna make an educated guess about it, that they had to be from another galaxy or planet or something like that and traveling by.
So not from this world?
No, they're not from this world. I guarantee that.